Hello and welcome to the No One Asked You podcast. I'm reading The Wheel of Time for the first time and sharing the experience with you. This is One Good Turn, The Eye of the World, and today I'm covering Chapter 8. He's gonna be alright, guys. I totally thought that he was a goner for sure, but it sounds like he's gonna be okay. So, yay, because I liked him and Rand deserves answers. And I wouldn't want those answers to be filled in by other people. But that said, there's still a chance, because if he doesn't wake up before Rand has to leave, then there's stuff there that he's going to figure out one way or the other throughout the story. Like, we're not just gonna drop that completely until it gets to a point where he can go back home. So if Tam does not wake up, he's going to be running into old friends of his father and so on to get those answers. So I do sincerely hope that Tam will wake up long enough to at least get some information out, because I do believe there are things that a son should hear from their father. But we'll see. I genuinely have no clue if he'll wake up in time or not. The chapter starts having just got back to the inn with Moraine and Lan. Tom leaves almost immediately, and Lan notes, "I do not like that man. There is something about him I don't trust. I did not see a hair of him last night." So I definitely have locked into this idea that there is specific history there between Tom and the Aes Sedai. But at the same time, I did get somewhat big empathy vibes from Tom in the last chapter. So Lan doesn't trust him, but I don't think that necessarily makes Tom a bad guy, certainly not a villain. It is noted that his cloak was charred. Rand thinks he may have been hiding in the stables for all he cared. So there's definitely some mystery going on there, but I don't get evil from this guy. At least not yet. But definite mystery. Moraine sends away the mayor, and the mayor was prepared to take Rand with, but he insists. He does a lot of speaking more forcefully than he intends to in this chapter, but asks if he can stay, since it's his father. And Moraine says yes, he can. He needs to sit away with Lan and they can talk, but if they do so quietly. The mayor grumbles, but he takes his leave. And Rand notes that there was this expectation with Aes Sedai that there be flashes and thunderclaps. I'll read the passage, but it seems like Moraine is just looking at Tam very intently and inspecting, but it isn't this big, showy thing. In the stories, Aes Sedai wonders were always accompanied by flashes and thunderclaps, or other signs to indicate mighty works and great powers. The power. The one power drawn from the true source that drove the wheel of time. That was not something Rand wanted to think about. The power involved with Tam, himself in the same room where the power might be used, in the same village, was bad enough. For all he could tell, though, Moraine might just as well have gone to sleep, but he thought Tam's breathing sounded easier. She must be doing something. So intent was he that he jumped when Lan spoke softly. So, again, we are emphasizing this idea of he wants these things that he loved in story to stay far away from reality. And we've got, this is a very quiet and subtle thing, and it seems like she must be doing something because Tam is breathing easier. And my first go-through of this, I read that and I think, well, just because he's breathing easier does not mean he's out of the woods yet. She could just be calming him, but ultimately could go the bad way. So I'm not assured yet until later on in the chapter. Lan starts speaking. He's noticed the blade. He's noticed the heron on the blade, and he asks about it just to clarify that it is there and it is a heron. To which Rand says, "Yes, there is. What is she doing?" Because he's very much focused on Moraine and his father. "I'd not have thought to find a heron-marked sword in a place like this. It belongs to my father." He glanced at Lan's sword, the hilt just visible at the edge of his cloak. The two swords did look a good deal alike, except that no herons showed on the warders. He bought it a long time ago. Strange thing for a shepherd to buy. The first time I'm going through this, I wonder. The fact that they look similar, but there's a different mark, is noteworthy. The similarity suggests perhaps coming from the same region, in the way that a scimitar isn't going to look like a gladius. So I'm wondering if essentially Lan and Tam are from similar places. Certainly their names are not wholly dissimilar, but I'm wondering if the heron is like reserved for a special corps, a unique group of people, the Praetorian Guard, more so than your average soldier or warder, as may be the case. Rand says, he never had any use for it that I know of. He said it had no use, until last night anyway. I didn't even know he had it till then. He called it useless, did he? He must not always have thought so. Lan touched the scabbard at Rand's waist briefly with one finger. There are places where the heron is a symbol of the master swordsman. That blade must have traveled a strange road to end up with a sheepherder in the two rivers. So then I get the answer. It's not necessarily a special corps or a Praetorian Guard type situation. It's for those who are uniquely accomplished. The first sword of Bravos. But Rand is just not into this conversation. It's further servicing the mystery of Tam's background. Rand isn't sure Moraine is doing anything because she's not moving, and a question pops into his mind. The mayor. The mayor said the only reason there's anything left of the village is because of you and her. If you had been told about a man in the woods, a man who made people afraid just by looking at them, would that have warned you? A man whose horse doesn't make any noise, and the wind doesn't touch his cloak. Would you have known what was going to happen? Could you and Moraine Sedai have stopped it if you'd known about him? It's a big question right there, but not unjustifiably asked. He is certainly, well, and you know where this line of thought might go, and Moraine expertly calls it out a little bit later. Not without half a dozen of my sisters, Moraine said, and Rand started. Had I known when I left Tarvalon that I would find Trollocs and Myrddraal here, I would have brought half a dozen of them. A dozen, if I had to drag them by the scruffs of their necks. By myself, a month's warning would have made little difference. Perhaps none. There is only so much one person can do, even calling on the One Power, and there were probably well over 100 Trollocs scattered around this district last night. An entire fist. So a fist is a specific number, squad, group of them, noted, and she wasn't expecting it, and she is someone who potentially has the power within the Aes Sedai hierarchy to have brought at least half a dozen, more so with perhaps some more difficulty. It still would have been good to know, Lan said sharply, the sharpness directed at Rand. When did you see him exactly, and where? And look, I don't dislike Lan at the moment, but he is coming off, thus far in the book, a touch tactless, very bulldogish, if that makes sense. The dynamic works with Moraine, sort of an odd couple. She's the quiet one, he's the blunt one type dynamic. I don't dislike it. Fortunately, Moraine jumps in at this point. That's of no consequence now. I will not have the boy thinking he is to blame for something when he is not. I am as much to blame. And that's what I was referencing when I said I know where this line of thought goes. Rand would have looked for a way to blame himself for this. And you can almost see the logic of, well, if it's him thereafter, then it is his fault, except when you count in the fact that, one, he didn't know. He really had no way of knowing. He did go to the adults, and the adults said, we'll handle it in the next day or two. And he also didn't know that Moraine was an Aes Sedai. And why would you think to go to an Aes Sedai in a world in which the Aes Sedai are as scary as the Myrddraal? So there are any number of mitigating factors here. I am as much to blame. That accursed raven yesterday, the way it behaved, should have warned me. And you too, my old friend. I was overconfident to the point of arrogance, sure that the Dark One's touch could not have spread so far, nor so heavily, not yet so sure. So at least she puts Lan in his place on that one, because it sounds like it's his job to become aware of these things. The Raven? I don't understand. Carrion eaters. The Dark One's minions often find spies among creatures that feed on death. Ravens and crows mainly, rats in the cities sometimes. And you leave rats alone, Dark One and Lan. Rats are adorable. It's the fleas that carried the plague, not the rats. Rand shivers, and he looks at his father, who is beginning to look better. He's improving. He's not like good by any means. He's still unconscious and struggling, but improvement is noticeable. Then we get some lore regarding Trolloc blades. You've done it. Not yet. I hope it is only not yet. Trolloc weapons are made at forges in the valley called Thakandar, on the very slopes of Shai Al Ghul itself. Some of them take a taint from that place, a stain of evil in the metal. Those tainted blades make wounds that will not heal unaided, or cause deadly fevers, strange sicknesses that medicines cannot touch. I have soothed your father's pain, but the mark, the taint, is still in him. Left alone, it will grow again and consume him. So it definitely sounds like when Frodo got stabbed by the Nazgul and then healed. That wound he carries with him always. More comparisons to Lord of the Rings. The lines, not yet. I hope it is only not yet. There's something about that I like quite a lot. It makes me like the way Moraine speaks. And I know there's some stuff about how she speaks as far as truth goes, but as I've said, that there are lines that come up from time to time that I think are written a bit weirdly, a bit confusingly, maybe a bit of a run-on sentence here and there. There are also little moments that, like this, not yet, I hope it is only not yet, that are either very poetic or very real, very natural. So that was one of those. Rand says, "But you won't leave it alone." Rand's words were half plea, half command. He was shocked to realize he had spoken to an Aes Sedai like that, but she seemed not to notice his tone. In this, we see the exhaustion, but presuming this particular character's destiny, it also shows an ability to command. He has leadership qualities in him, but it also freaks him out that she's an Aes Sedai, and I think there's some humor in that. I will not. I am very tired, Rand, and I have had no chance to rest since last night. Ordinarily it would not matter, but for this kind of hurt, this, she took a small bundle of white silk from her pouch, is an angreal. She saw his expression. You know of an angreal, then. Good. And I think that's the first I've heard of angreal, and as I say it, I actually want to take a quick trip backwards in time to look at the name of the tree that Tam was talking about. I see Narg's words. You're still lovely, Kari. They came over the dragon wall, washed the land with blood, called them savages, field of Marith carpeted. I'm looking for the thing about the barbarians and the tree. Avendasora. Okay, that's not quite Angreal. So, Avendoral Dara. Avendasora. Okay, never mind. I suppose there is less connection there. There's probably a connection there. I just thought the word was a bit closer. Anyway, it ends up being a talisman of power. I don't know if it's specifically a healing talisman or just like a wand, a focal point for magical energy, an enhancer of some kind. She explains, "We have lost the making of these. So much is lost, perhaps never to be found again. So few remain the Amerlin seat almost did not allow me to take this one. It is well for Emmonsfield and for your father that she did give her permission." The Amerlin seat suggests to me a position, a senate, if you will. But then the phrase that she did give her permission suggests it is one person. I'm trying to sift through what I remember having been told about this series, and I think there's something like color-coded Aes Sedai connected to different sects. So I think it's connected to that, probably. It is well for Emond's Field and for your father that she did give her permission. But you must not hope too much. Now even with it I can do little more than I could have without it yesterday, and the taint is strong. It has had time to fester. You can help him. I know you can. We shall see. No lies detected yet. I believe she's earnestly trying. And then Lan starts inquiring about the figure that Rand had seen, and he confirms that it was a Myrddraal. Rand exclaims, "A Myrddraal! But Fades are 20 feet tall, and—" Sometimes sheepherders' stories make things larger than truth. Believe me, the truth is big enough with a half-man. Half-man, Lurk, Fade, Shadowman. The name depends on the land you're in, but they all mean Myrddraal. I'm glad I got an answer to that reasonably quickly. I know I was curious the difference between Myrddraal and Fade before. He goes on, Fades are Trolloc spawn, throwbacks almost to the human stock the Dreadlords used to make the Trollocs. So that's a weird thing, Trolloc spawn, because that suggests to me that Trolloc are above Myrddraal in the hierarchy, but it seems clear, not only from the rest of this chapter, but from past experience, that the Myrddraal are the commanders. So that is a bit strange in my mind that I don't quite know how to reconcile. I imagine it would be Trollocs are Fade spawn. Anyway, but if the human strain is made stronger, so is the taint that twists the Trollocs. Half-men have powers of a kind, the sort that stem from the Dark One. Only the weakest Aes Sedai would fail to be a match for a Fade 1 against 1, but many a good man and true has fallen to them. Since the wars that ended the Age of Legends, since the Forsaken were bound, they have been the brain that tells the Trolloc fist where to strike. So they are bred commanders, and they are more human than the Trollocs. In the days of the Trolloc Wars, half-men led the Trollocs in battle under the Dreadlords. Here, Dreadlord, I imagine Death Knight type guys. Rand says he was scared, and a surprising bit of empathy from Lan. No need for shame, sheepherder. They scare me too. And he recounts having seen other men who freeze in terror at the sight of the eyeless. Rand asks the eyeless, and Lan says, Myrddraal see like eagles, in darkness or in light, but they have no eyes. I can think of few things more dangerous than facing a Myrddraal. Moraine Sedai and I both tried to kill the one that was here last night, and we failed every time. Half-men have the Dark One's own luck. This particular Myrddraal seems to be uniquely powerful. Now granted, they were taken by surprise, and with an extremely large amount of Trollocs, but I'm getting the sense, considering the Dark One's accuracy and secrecy in the attack on this particular village, that the Dark One probably feels confident that this is the location that he is seeking with the person he is seeking. And I would do the same thing. Send a good amount of strong people to go after the target. And then I enjoyed this particular interaction. A Trolloc said the Myrddraal wanted to talk to me. I didn't know what it meant. Lan's head jerked up. His eyes were blue stones. You talked to a Trolloc? Not exactly. It talked to me. It said it wouldn't hurt me. That the Myrddraal wanted to talk to me. Then it tried to kill me. I killed it instead. By accident, really. It jumped at me and I had the sword in my hand. So Lan is staring daggers at Rand this entire time. I wondered if the fact that they spoke suggests some sort of taint in Rand, and that was why. Or I wondered if Lan was curious, like, specifically what it was that was said for any valuable information, more so than the oddity of a Trolloc threatening someone. Lan's face softened slightly, if rock could be said to soften. Even so, that is something to speak of, sheepherder. Until last night there were few men south of the borderlands who could say they had seen a Trolloc, much less killed one. And fewer still who have slain a Trolloc alone and unaided, Moraine said wearily. It is done, Rand. Lan, help me up. And I read that, and that's not a, your dad's gonna be okay sentence, that is a, the work is done, I've done all I can sentence. But I did write down there, hope, because I felt optimistic at that point. You'll be all right now? With rest, yes. A few weeks in bed and he will be as good as ever. And she wraps the angriel up and returns it to her pouch. So I'm thinking, well, I definitely got that wrong. I'm so glad he's going to be okay. I mean, there's still time. He could not be by the end of everything. But for the moment, I'm feeling much more safe than I had been before. We get more Aes Sedai lore. In the Age of Legends, some Aes Sedai could fan life and health to flame, if only the smallest spark remained. Those days are gone, though. Perhaps forever. So much was lost, not just the making of Angriel, so much that could be done which we dare not even dream of it. We remember it all. There are far fewer of us now. Some talents are all but gone, and many that remain seem weaker. Now there must be both will and strength for the body to draw on, or even the strongest of us can do nothing in the way of healing. It is fortunate that your father is a strong man both in body and spirit. As it is, he used up much of his strength in the fight for life, but all that is left now is for him to recuperate. That will take time, but the taint is gone. So we get a lot there. The Aes Sedai are not as powerful as they used to be. A lot of history is lost. A lot of powers are gone. I'm wondering if it is a wax and wane type of thing, not unlike in Game of Thrones, where when there are dragons about, when there are dragons about, there is magic in the world. But as the dragons died out, so too did the magic. And then with the coming of dragons again in the Red Comet, magic starts to come back to the world, strengthen in the world again. I'm wondering if it's like the period in between the reincarnation of the dragon and between ages, magic starts to die, and then perhaps it comes back when the dragon returns. But then again, there is also the taint in the male half of the power. I can't imagine why that would make things more difficult for the women, the Aes Sedai. But nevertheless, I mean, it all affects each other. So anyway, Rand says, I can never repay you, but anything I can do for you, I will. Anything at all. Anything as long as it does not hurt the village or my friends. If you think it is necessary, I would like to talk with you anyway. You will no doubt leave at the same time we do, and we can speak at length then. And that's a big drop. She didn't say you're gonna have to leave. She didn't give him any context for that statement. No one else has said anything about leaving the town. So I'm not gonna say presumptuous, because I don't think she's being presumptuous. I think they're all just kind of exhausted. But it was not... It lacked context. Leave? Is it really that bad? Everyone looked to me as if they were ready to start rebuilding. We're a pretty settled folk in the Two Rivers. Nobody ever leaves. Rand. And where would we go? Padden Fane said the weather is just as bad everywhere else. And he goes on and on, stream of consciousness, and it's kind of funny because Moraine keeps trying to interrupt him, and eventually Lan breaks in. Sheepherder, you talk when you should be listening. He blinked at both of them. He had been half babbling, he realized, and he had rambled on while she tried to talk, while an Aes Sedai tried to talk. He wondered what to say, how to apologize, but Moraine smiled while he was still thinking. That was a humorous paragraph there. I chuckled. So far, I like Moraine. Despite all of the ominous and scary bits of reputation the Aes Sedai have, I like Moraine, and partly because I know generally what her role in the story is. I trust in her wanting good. I think I should be more wary of the Aes Sedai than I am. So I suspect Moraine is unique among the Aes Sedai, and the bureaucracy of the Aes Sedai is probably not great. I understand how you feel, Rand. Think no more of it. I've handled this badly, I see. I should have rested first, I suppose. It is you who will be leaving, Rand. You who must leave for the sake of your village. Me? Me? Why do I have to go? I don't understand any of this. I don't want to go anywhere. Moraine and Lan share a look, and it's a little bit of an ominous look, because they look back at Rand and he feels weighed again. Lan and Moraine begin to explain essentially what I had theorized about in an earlier chapter as well, that there were specific targets here tonight, that the Trollocs were looking specifically for young men in a specific age range. And Rand says, "My age? Why, Matt, what about Perrin?" "Alive and well, if a trifle sooty. Bancraw and Lem Thane? We're never in any danger, at least no more than anyone else." "But they saw the rider, the Fade too, and they're the same age as I am." I'm glad he brought those two up, because my mind did go to them during the first part of that explanation where they said they were going after young boys of a specific age, and I had already associated in my mind being able to see the Myrddraal. But essentially, Ban and Lem were not on the hit list, because Ban is 10 months older than he is, and Lem is 8 months younger than he is. So the difference in age here is a matter of weeks. So Matt, Perrin, and Rand are within the same couple of weeks old. "What would they want with us? We're just farmers, shepherds." "That is a question that has no answer in the Two Rivers, but the answer is important. Trollocs where they have not been seen in almost 2,000 years tells us that much." That is a question that has no answer in the Two Rivers, I think, is the first thing she has said that I have noticed as somewhat deceitful while still being truthful, in the sense that she knows the answer to the question, I think, but she doesn't want to say it in the Two Rivers. So she doesn't deny knowing the answer. She just comments on the answer and says, well, what she said. They talk about the unusual nature of Trollocs being in the Two Rivers, and essentially it's impressed upon us, the reader, that it took a great deal of effort on the Dark One's side to sneak such a large amount of Trollocs and Myrddraal to the Two Rivers without being noticed. "It took a great deal of effort to bring so many Trollocs so far without raising a hue and cry from the borderlands to Camelin and beyond," is just one thing said about all of that. Rand asks if they can stop them now that they know they're here. Moraine suggests she could send to Tarvalon for more Aes Sedai, and Rand realizes that that would mean fighting, and that would mean death and destruction and danger. So he says, "That's why I have to leave, isn't it? The Trollocs won't come back if I'm not here." The last trace of obstinacy made him add, "If they really are after me." Moraine's eyebrows raised as if she were surprised that he was not convinced. That was an interesting interaction. I think he more or less is convinced. I think it's more like he's in denial, at least for the moment. "Are you willing to bet your village on it, sheepherder? Your whole Two Rivers?" And I really got the sense that they weren't certain whether or not Rand was going to go willingly. And I'm a little concerned what would have happened if Rand did not go willingly. Even if he didn't believe in all of this, he did agree to pay whatever price to save Tam, and she easily could have called that price in as "you are going to leave with me." But it does make all the difference that he is someone of a moral character who is willing to leave for the safety of the rest. "No. Perrin and Matt have to go too, don't they? Leaving the Two Rivers, leaving his home and his father. At least Tam would get better. At least he would be able to hear him say all that on the quarry road had been nonsense." So, man, what he heard is really, 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 really getting to him. And I don't blame him, and I sincerely do hope Tam will wake up before they have to leave, to give him some small bit of closure. I kinda don't think he will, but I really hope he does. So he starts wondering about where he could possibly go, and the short of it is Tarvalon, where the Aes Sedai are, is essentially the safest place for them, for the time being, and there they will get their answers. "There is a place of safety. In Tarvalon you would be among Aes Sedai and warders. Even during the Trolloc Wars, the forces of the Dark One feared to attack the Shining Walls. The one attempt was their greatest defeat until the very end, and Tarvalon holds all the knowledge we Aes Sedai have gathered since the time of madness. Some fragments even date from the Age of Legends. In Tarvalon, if anywhere, you will be able to learn why the Murdral want you, why the Father of Lies wants you. That I can promise. There suggests, from her earlier possible deception regarding no answer in the two valleys, that she either doesn't know, I think she knows, or she doesn't intend to tell him until they are safe in Tarvalon, which may be the safest place to tell him. I enjoyed this paragraph. A journey all the way to Tarvalon was almost beyond thinking. A journey to a place where he would be surrounded by Aes Sedai. Of course, Moraine had healed Tam, or it looked as if she had at least, but there were all those stories. It was uncomfortable enough to be in a room with one Aes Sedai, but to be in a city full of them. She still had not demanded her price. There was always a price, so the stories said. Knowing how much he fears the Aes Sedai, I appreciate, from an outsider's perspective, the image of him there surrounded by them. We get a really wonderful part here. How long will my father sleep? I have to tell him. He shouldn't just wake up and find me gone. He thought he heard Lan give a sigh of relief. He looked at the warder curiously, but Lan's face was as expressionless as ever. And that's the relief right there that I had mentioned. Moraine does not believe that he will wake up before they leave because it is imperative that they leave that very night. They want to leave under cover of darkness to make it more difficult for the Murdral, although I get the sense that they, being creatures of darkness, won't find darkness much of a hindrance, personally. But what do I know? Regardless, it's much sooner than anticipated. Moraine says that she's going to go find Mat and Perrin, and at this point I'm wondering how Egwene and Nynaeve are going to get roped up into this. I'm very curious. It's so weird because Egwene, one might expect her to jump at this chance, an opportunity to go out on an adventure, but it's right on the heels of such destruction where she's probably also going to think my family needs me, my village needs me, I need to be here to help. I can't just run away like that. But at the same time, then there's this potential bit of jealousy she might feel directed toward Rand, who gets to go off on an adventure when he didn't even want to in the first place. How dare he? I'm very curious how Egwene is gonna feel. Moraine says she'll take care of Mat and Perrin, and we get another Lord of the Rings comparison, couple of sentences. Not until that very minute had he realized that Emond's Field was a part of him as much as he was a part of it. He realized it now because he knew that was what he had felt tearing loose. He was apart from the village now. The Shepherd of the Night wanted him. A very grown-up thought. He has grown up, leveled up a little bit, so to speak. It's a dark realization, a scary realization. The mayor and Mistress Alvir come in. She very, very carefully instructs him not to wake him, and he promises he won't. We get some nice moments between the mayor and his wife regarding how scary the Aes Sedai are. The men are scared, some women are scared, but other women seem to feel comfortable semi-baiting her with regard to the title of Aes Sedai, Moraine Sedai versus Lady Moraine. And then we get some really smart Rand going on, because he starts asking the mayor for some questions to confirm or reject what Moraine had told him. Careful, Rand thought. It was not too late to start being careful. Master Alvir, do you know how many farms were attacked? Only 2 I've heard so far, including your place. And the mayor goes on to affirm what Moraine had said, more or less. He thinks that it was random wanton slaughter, but Rand is also smart enough to know that Moraine would likely know more about the creature's motives than the mayor, and those motives are to be kept quiet. The 3 of them had agreed that no one else would know. It would be best not to tell anyone. Understandably so, I think. The mayor does say that the Trollocs seemed confused. They hadn't expected Aes Sedai or a warder here, and Mistress Alvir insists that he eat and rest. Rand asks if he can rest in the room with his dad. He promises not to wake him. Then he sets up and he contemplates the promise not to tell anyone that he would have to leave. And he determines to stay awake in case his dad wakes up. He grimaced and twisted in the chair, absently shifting the sword hilt out of his ribs. He still felt backward about telling anyone what Moraine had said, but this was Tam, after all. This was, without realizing it, he set his jaw determinedly. My father. I can tell my father anything. He twisted a little more in the chair and put his head against the chair back. Tam was his father, and nobody could tell him what to say or not to say to his father. He just had to stay awake until Tam woke up. He just had to... ... I presume at that point he passes out from exhaustion because it has been a hell of a day, and now he's planning on staying up another day. Ridiculous, Rand. You do need your rest. But I get it. Lots of great information. I am eager to see the gang get together and take off, but I'm curious what the first team meeting is going to be like. Like I said, I want to know how Nynaeve and Egwene get roped into this. I think that's all I've got to say for now. Thank you all for tuning in. Have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you next time. Okay, thanks, bye.